Ken French asks about being on the clock versus personal projects. I'm curious about your perception of your schedule and activities related to shop time. You've always been in someone else's shop doing their bidding. Doing their bidding, yes. Do you find your personal shop experience since MythBusters has given you an opportunity to schedule the work you want to do, whereas before you were hired for a specific job? Oh yeah, totally. But like, what's so funny is that when I really hit a snag in my personal scheduling for something, I ask myself, what if I was on the clock? I have to redound to a commerce frame in order to bring my head into the decision tree that yields this within a certain period of time. Because the first thing that's so important when you're working for someone else is how much time this next thing you're going to do takes. And the last thing you want to be concerned with when you're working on something in your own shop is how much time is this thing going to take. It's like, excuse me, it's so freeing to remove that part of the equation, but it's so freeing sometimes it hamstrings me with possibilities. I have too many options. I like pulled the mecha glove, the Hellboy mecha glove out of where it was stored in order to repair a part that was 3D printed 14 years ago and is falling apart. But in doing that, I'm like fixing all this other stuff on my mecha glove because I want it to be perfect again. And it is the absolute definition of mission creep. Because I'm there like, oh, well, I could do this, but I want to make this one perfect. Oh, I could do this, but I want to make this one perfect. And it's like every 2 steps forward is leading to 3 steps back because it's taking longer and longer and longer. And I know that in order to take the mecha hand off my table, I'm going to have to be like, I'm on the clock, got to get this all done today. And I will. It is harder to schedule. It is much, your last question is it harder to schedule yourself versus a customer's requirements? And the answer is way harder, way harder. Also, when you're building something for yourself, you would prefer, I'm always doing the royal you. When I'm building something for myself, I would prefer that it be perfect through and through. That would be my goal. I never achieve it, but when you're building something for a client, you don't want it perfect through and through. You don't want to waste any time on this. You want to deliver exactly what they want, exactly when they want it, or a little bit before. And you don't want to do anything that they haven't asked for. You don't want to overdo the job for them. You will lose money immediately as soon as you do that. You want to maximize what they get and minimize how long it takes you to do that. That's how this commerce works. I'm not saying you want to minimize it to the expense of the project, but yeah, you're going to make money the faster you can execute. And that's a very different frame than having in your own cave, in your own shop. So yeah, it's way harder. One more? All right. Okay, well, this is a quick, I'm going to do, wait, there's something I'm forgetting here. I realize Ryan Peck, I have a couple more people to mention in the history of me as an artist that weren't teachers, but they were teachers. And it's 2 women, both friends of my parents. One is Jacqueline Rothschild. She and her husband, V. Henry, were among my dad's best friends since the 50s, the 1950s. And Jacqueline had a pottery studio in their house in Truro, which is up on the arm of Cape Cod. And we would see them every summer. And Jacqueline would let me work alongside her and took me seriously as a creator. I couldn't have been 6 or 7 or 8 years old, but she was like, she talked to me just like a person. She was very glamorous and French and just awesome. Actually, my wife and I visited Jacqueline 2005. I think she was already in her 80s at that point, but she never told my mom her age. And we were leaving, seeing her, and my wife was like, you were flirting with Jacqueline. And I'm like, yeah, I probably was flirting with Jacqueline. And the other one is Gene Steig. The original children's book, Shrek, is written by Bill Steig, William Steig, who wrote, I'd say dozens, but it might even be well more than dozens of children's books, and was a New Yorker illustrator since the 1920s. And Bill Steig was another one of my dad's best friends, and Bill and his wife Jean were two of my parents' closest friends. And Jean was an incredible, they both were insane and amazing artists. Jean specifically sort of moved me repeatedly throughout my young life with the things that she made and the ways in which she talked to me about it. Because again, she talked to me like a peer. No greater thing you can do when a kid is talking to you about stuff that they're making than to just listen and take them seriously, look them in the eye, ask them questions about it, man. You are setting in them a value set that will come back much later. And there's somebody who wanted to see a specific thing. Apasquale says, I remember years ago you mentioned you had an idea for a new way to store sockets. Sockets for wrench sockets. Something that would make them easier to transport and use. Did you ever develop that further, or any chance we'll see it as a product someday? I would love to know if I should finally stop holding my bated breath or hold out that you'll come to the rescue of lost and jumbled sockets. Listen, I don't have a system that can keep track of your 10 millimeter socket. I wish I did. But yeah, Marcos and I, Marcos Mafia, my collaborator in all the bags that I make, collaborated in a socket tool roll. That's what this was. And this is a full set. This is for a complete set of metric sockets and handles and extenders and right angle stuff and nut drivers for my Land Cruiser. And this then would like fold up and roll up and clip using these clips. And then there was this exterior here. The reason this doesn't have sockets in it is because it never really worked. This is ideal for taking out camping or when you're driving your Land Cruiser all the time. But it did not make a discrete package. I did not achieve the solution I was hoping to achieve. So I am not close to releasing this as a product. However, that being said, the tool roll is one of the great tool storage systems ever developed by humans. And I do want to jump into that pool at some point with some products, because tool rolls are a spectacular plastic deformable way to store objects of disparate sizes and form factors in a way that is very much minimizing the amount of space that takes up. It didn't work for this, but that's an extreme example. I really appreciate all the questions today about process and history. These are really fun to talk about, especially those ways in which, when I get questions about the ways in which I was encouraged, it helps frame my mind for the ways in which I may encourage others. And I think we all take those kind of stories to that level. And it's one of the great graces of my life right now is, despite the difficulties of the world, which are intense, and the stress that induces, which is also intense, I feel like what we do here at Tetsed is very specifically putting out content that is kind. And I know that the world needs lots of kindness right now. And I feel good that we are one of the producers of that kindness. And so I really appreciate you guys sitting with me today, hearing these stories and submitting your questions for answers. Thank you so much. Take good care of each other. Stay safe, stay dry, stay warm. And I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Adam out. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I wanted to briefly mention that you could become a Tetsed member. I know everybody is competing for you to become a member of their thing. What I want to express to you is that the Tetsed membership has become such an important part of the Tetsed family. We get tremendous feedback from the Tetsed members, and they expand the stories that we can tell and the things that we have access to. And you can become a part of it right now by clicking on the link below. See you in the chat.